So I was looking back and I realised that I've been way too nice to films recently. I realised that I haven't given less than a 5 to anything, so I decided that I'd go to the ends of the internet to find the worst movies ever made. And after some searching, I found this gem. It's called Axem. It came out in 1992 and you can't watch it anywhere. You can't buy it, you can't rent it, and you can't stream it. It's not on Netflix or anything. Thankfully, this legend right here has it uploaded on his channel. Thank you, soldier, you're doing God's work. So I decided to drag myself through 1 hour 10 minutes of straight pain. Anyway, we start off with some exposure to the plot. It looks like it's just come straight from Windows Movie Maker. On a cold winter night in 1990, Mr. Mason, a mean and cruel townsman, left his job for home. After arriving home, he took a shotgun and killed his wife and kids. Stressful Mondays, we all get them. Then his mean man killed himself. I mean, it makes sense, it really does. Can I just point out, by the way, that every new line starts with a capital letter. It's not every sentence, it's every new line. When the police arrived, they only found the bodies of his wife, daughter and younger son. His mentally ill son was never found. I'm shook to my core and we're 9 seconds in. Legend has it he will return in 13 years to revenge his family's death. Wait, it should be avenge, and he killed them, so why does he need revenge? That doesn't make much sense. Anyway, after this exposition, we cut to an absolutely mental looking house party. Then these two characters in the middle I assume are the main characters. So I'm gonna let this scene play for you and I need you to listen to the audio.
Right, I'll ask her. But I know she's gonna give me a hard time about needing that time off.
I've not edited this audio whatsoever. It is seriously this loud. They have one mic and it's been used to film everything. I was gonna make a joke about the budget, but it's literally nowhere. You can look for it yourself, it's literally off the record, you can't find it anywhere on the internet. Also, through that research, I discovered that the film is written, directed, produced and starred by one person, Michael Mifune, who I'm assuming is Blue Jacket over here in the first scene. So here we're introduced to the rest of the main characters, and not one name was mentioned, but I managed to gather that they're going on a trip to his granddad's house, I think, who I'm assuming is the one killed by Axem later on. We then cut to dark and a very 1990s stock horror sound plays. The camera pans down to show a white building, which I'm assuming is Axem's base of operations. Then a man in a very intimidating tartan shirt emerges from the fog with an axe in his hand. He walks around the house, no sound other than the Friday the 13th-esque music in the background. Then some old man starts speaking, and I've honestly got no idea if he was speaking in a known language. The old man goes into the cupboard and pulls out probably the most expensive object in the film, a revolver, but Axem gets to him before he can load it, and the only piece of audible dialogue so far is this man screaming. I would have had the same reactions too, Chief. R.I.P. dressing gown man. After this shocking turn of events, we cut to a rap battle. This is so 90s, it's unbelievable. A Michael Mifune film. Why did you need to write your surname twice? It's not even a nickname either. It's literally his surname spelled different. Anyway, this scene drags on for far too long until this bloke speaks to the audience and announces, wait for it, DJ double cut master, slice 'em up, dice 'em up, OG super nice, J nice. You know, some rappers have really indescriptive names like Eminem and Lil Pump, but DJ slice 'em up, dice 'em up over here, he cuts straight to the chase. It just rolls off the tongue, it really does. So the next few minutes is basically a montage of them preparing for and arriving at the forest where the cabin is, and for a start, there was dialogue in these scenes, but the music was too loud, it drowned out any dialogue going on. Anyway, the heroes, in huge quotation marks, arrive at the forest, then we're introduced to two new characters who are officially credited as Hobo 1 and 2 on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's either the legal names or their job titles. The director has obviously told them to walk into the scene as if they've just been running from something, but with no proper direction, so they've just winged it, and a retake would have been too much of a hassle, so they just kept the original one in. This is honestly like an SNL skit, like this can't be real. Yes, you heard that right. They accidentally left in the director saying cut. I'm not even going to comment on it. I'll just let you comprehend that for yourself. Bearing in mind, this film was released in cinemas and on disc in 2001. People bought this film with real money. Later on from this monstrosity of a scene, we cut to the characters chatting in this house. And I have a problem with this because it cuts from them being in the forest to them being in a house to them being in the forest again. I seriously can't tell if it's an editing mistake or if the pacing is actually that bad. Anyway, we move on to these two characters walking through the woods, and then this other woman runs up from behind them and joins in. Then the two women walk off and leave this poor guy in the dust. After this, we cut to the first of many dinner scenes in this film. You know, much like Jaws had the dolly zoom, Axem has the dinner scene. A truly industry breaking technique. So all the characters are sat around this big table, and of course the audio is dreadful. It honestly feels like when you sat at the end of the dinner table at school and you're trying to listen to what the people at the other end of the table are saying. Plus the scene drags on for an insane amount of time. Like, I'm talking a full 5 to 6 minute long shot of these people just talking, and you can hear none of it. After this, we cut to, I'm assuming, a flashback showing a group of unnamed children playing. I don't know if it's nighttime or daytime because it's in black and white, but immediately following this, we cut to a scene described in the prologue where Axem shoots his sleeping family. I brought up the nighttime daytime thing because why have these two parts got anything to do with each other? It literally cuts from some kids playing in the garden to a mass homicide. Unless it's nighttime and the kid runs home, but why would this very young child be going home when his parents are asleep? Anyway, ignoring that, he shoots this woman and blood goes absolutely everywhere, but the bullets leave no entry holes. Actually, no, it's unfair to comment on this because a film this badly made is never gonna have good effects, so I'll let it slide. Then he shoots himself but manages to flinch before pulling the trigger. Wait, hang on. If this is Axem killing his family, who just shot himself? Axem's completely not dead in the rest of the film. What's going on? So at this point, the level of acting skyrockets because the character's car runs out of gas. So they jump out of the car and violently slam the door shut. And this geezer paces up and down the road as if he's plotting a bank heist.
Breakfast, you come with me.
Wait. Did he just call him Breakfast?
Breakfast, you come with me.
This man is actually called Breakfast. We have two names so far. DJ Slice 'em Up, Dice 'em Up, and Breakfast. Anyway, it cuts to Silk Robe over here, scrubbing the bathtub, and some woman walks in and starts kissing him? Yeah, I've got no idea either. And immediately following this is another dinner scene. It's been like 5 minutes.
Look, I'm gonna go back to sleep. I'll holler at you later.
Why are you going back to bed? You just woke up. There's like no reason why you need to go back to bed. So anyway, the two going out to find a place to phone for help stumble across this abandoned house looking place. And much like every other horror at the time, they just walk straight in. There's literally moss growing down the windows. Why would anyone live there? So even though the last scene was actually framed quite well, there was quite a bit of detail in the shot. Someone decided to bust out their favourite smoke machine, and the scene looks disgraceful again. It literally can't be somewhat good for 1 second. Anyway, this absolute doormat goes upstairs alone and gets bludgeoned with a telephone. It had happened at some point, ladies and gentlemen, and in this instance, it's in a scene from a KSI music video. So this next scene is weird for me, because Breakfast is having... Oh, Breakfast, I can't get over that. Because Breakfast is having a whole mental debate with himself over whether he should have left his friend behind. But as far as he was concerned, there was no danger. He hadn't even seen Axem unless he did off camera, which in this film is completely likely to have happened. But through what we've seen, he's just ran off and left his friend in the house alone for no apparent reason.
But you won't kiss my black ass.
Anyway, he gets in the car, explains that he's ditched his friend, and runs by himself down the road and out of the shot.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am.
Another dinner scene. I can't do this anymore. Anyway, the characters hear a scream, and all but one of them dart out of the seat. I guess this guy just couldn't not finish his 11th meal of the day. So the characters run to the door and let this woman in, and now for some reason, someone has hotboxed the house. Breakfast returns to the film with a bleeding arm, and the corpse of the murdered white guy is flung through the door, even though he was killed in the other house on the other side of the woods. That seems like a whole lot of effort to carry a dead body just to throw it through a door. So they decide to run through the open door that this dilapidated corpse was just thrown through. Then Axem guy is stood crouched over the car, and the characters say twice. I'm not making this up. they accidentally left in 2 shots of the exact same thing. Now, if you haven't noticed, this is when the movie gets really incompetent. You thought it was before, you'd honestly be surprised. So all these characters decide to jump and pile on top of each other, and this guy screams and stares directly into the camera. Is this a fourth wall break, do you reckon? Deadpool before its time, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just count the amount of looks in this one string of dialogue.
Look, we gotta go back out to the cars. Look, we gotta go back out to the cars. Look, if my cars aren't, they destroyed the other 2 cars. Look, come on out there. Who's going out there? Yeah, man, who's gonna go out there, man? We got some deal right for you, man. Who's out there? Bro, look, man. What? I'm gonna watch your back, man. Watch my back? Man, look, man, I will physically put my foot up your ass. You'll say some shit like that again. Come on, man, stop it.
Anyway, the characters debate whether they should head back to the cars or not. But what I'd like to point out is the fact that Axem just decides not to go anywhere near them for a substantial amount of time. If you just got in the house while they were arguing, we could have killed them off just like that. Like, what are you waiting for? Anyway, this valiant soldier goes outside and tries to start the cars that the crazy murderer was messing with a few scenes ago. Obviously, they don't start, and then Axem pounces with an attempted jump scare. Who knows? Anyway, he runs back in the house and narrowly escapes Axem and his machete. First of all, why is the film called Axem if he only uses an axe in the start of the film? And why does he look like Attitude Era Kane? Anyway, now the characters are outside, and this segues into the single best part of the film. I've looked back over, and truly nothing else compares with how hilariously awful this scene is. I didn't edit or cut that one single bit. This man's glasses moved by themselves, and since Axem doesn't move, I'm assuming he died of shock. Moving forward past this absolute cinematic masterpiece, I'd like to highlight this part as quite possibly the worst moment in motion picture history. This woman is stood in the woods and she trips over without walking. It's quite possibly the first time I've ever seen someone trip over without moving. I'd also like to mention that they didn't invest in lighting either. So for a lot of these next scenes, you're probably going to be staring at a black screen.
I'm falling down and I can't get up.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Anyway, we cut back to the house where this man, wielding an incredibly scary invisible gun, crawls into the house and finds, I think, his granddad. Well, it's the guy who was killed at the start of the film. So you're telling me that out of 10 people, not one of them looked in this particular cupboard until just now. So yeah, Axem kills a few more of the people, and somehow all the surviving characters managed to meet at the empty car from the start of the film, even though they'd all ran in separate directions, and they decided that they were going to make one final stand against Axem. The most climactic part of the film. And what happens? They shoot him and kick him, and he dies. Oh, does he? Return next summer for Axem 2 Lost in New York. So that's the end of the cinematic masterpiece that is Axem. If I make more of these awful movies videos, I think I'm going to refrain from the standard 1 to 10 rating. So instead I'm going to be using 1 to 100. And this film earns a solid 3. But from an entertainment standpoint, 100 smackaroos baby, this film is entertainment gold. So that's the end of the video. Let me know if you enjoyed by hitting the subscribe button and liking the video so it gets out to new people. Follow my Twitter for my opinions on things, and follow my Twitch for some gaming streams. Also, I've started a Discord server. Who knew? I knew because I made it. But you didn't, that's why I'm telling you about it. So go and join it now. Anyway, that's it from me, so I'll see you later.